I did a series of teaching from this book called Take Your Soul to Work. And I think it'll be a blessing to you all. I just got to bring up my notes here and see how this works. And what it's based upon is last year when I dealt from this book, I dealt with the 9 deadly sins. I don't know if you all remember that teaching when we talked about the 9 deadly sins, and I may go back to that later on this year. But what was good about that is it talked about these deadly sins that can creep on us while we're in the workplace, and it is so important that we don't allow them. If y'all remember that, we talked about pride, greed, lust, gluttony, anger, sloth, envy, relentlessness, and boredom, and how these things can be deadly in the workplace. Well, today what I want to do is I want to look at the fruit of the Spirit. And so what the enemy gives us to take to work is the deadly sins. What God gives us to combat these sins is his fruit of the Spirit. And Galatians 5:22 speaks to the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. And so for every sin that the enemy has, God has a fruit to overcome it. The biggest challenge that we're going to run into is that fruit is not just given to us. They are available to us, but they must be developed and earned. If you think about, everyone gets a gift, but you got to develop your fruit, which explains why some people can be very spiritual but express no love. Or they come to church and they do all their work, but they go home and they're depressed because they have no joy. Or they're very active, but they have no peace. All of this deals with the fact that we have the gifts, and the Bible says even if you have the gift of tongues and you can speak to angels and to men and all tongues, he said, but have not charity, which is love, it profits you none. So what he's saying here is that even though you can have the gifts, if you don't develop the fruit, you won't be able to combat the sin. I'm going to say that again. Yes. If you have the gifts of the Spirit, so I'm talking to church folk, which y'all do have, and we some spiritual folk. We some gifted people. Oh, my church, we got all kind of prophets. We got all kind of preachers, and they can preach fire down from heaven. We got folk that can blow on you and knock you out. We can sing you until you're happy. Oh my God. We can dance. We can shout. We have all types of gifts and giftings. Our biggest challenge is, however, gifts do not defeat sin. Only the fruit does. Gifts do not overcome the sins of this world. The fruit does, which is why so many people get so frustrated with so many Christians. Let me say that again. Why we struggle with church folk? Because church people, they are saved, they are gifted, but they're not developing adequately their fruit. They're not developing it. They're not allowing it to grow in them. And so I'm still mean. I'm very harsh. I'm not gentle. I have no long suffering. I'm very short-tempered. I'm too arrogant. All of these things are things that result from the sins of this world, which your gifting and your salvation does not defeat until you develop the fruit. And so if you think about arrogance and pride, the one fruit that God gives us to overcome it is called joy. Joy. And we're going to talk about joy today. I want you to think about this fruit for a minute and what does it mean. Let me read some things from the book that I think will help you. I suppose it depends on the work I do. When we canoeing together on Clearwater Lake, we did get a lot of work paddling the canoe hour after hour. It can be incredibly repetitive and painfully slow. But as we meander along the lake shore, I saw an eagle soaring above. I felt the warm glow of the sun setting, lighting up the sculpture rocks. There's lots to enjoy if we travel slowly, listen to the dip of the paddles and the drip of the water flickering off the blades into the minor lakes. We certainly experienced joy canoeing together, didn't we? But what about joy in the workplace? And so if I ask you all, tell me about your experiences where you think you've experienced joy. What would you say, Wanda? Tell me about a time where you experienced joy. And use the mic, because I think that it'll give people an opportunity to hear you all.
I think when I see harmony, teamwork, seeing that sense of unity brings...
So when you see people working together, that brings you joy.
Yes, sir.
Which probably explains when you don't see it, why it frustrates you.
Exactly.
Okay? And that's just something I know about you.
Right.
Lenise, tell me about either times or a specific time in which you've experienced great joy.
I can't think of a specific time, but
Okay.
just seeing like your plans that you had come together
Uh-huh.
and something working out that you put a lot of work into gives me a lot of joy.
And it actually, wow, this actually worked. Actually worked. Ebony, why don't you tell us about a joyous occasion, either in general or something, maybe something specific that happened in your life and it just brought you great joy?
Every single day when I put my children to bed and the house is just peaceful and quiet,
Uh-huh.
I experience, and clean, I experience so much happiness and joy.
Mm.
To wake up again, and I'm happy about that. And then the cycle starts again. But seriously, I do, because I mean, those who've met my children know them. They're very spirit-filled children. So I do experience a lot of joy with that.
Well, that's awesome, and which then brings about a challenge for a lot of people because we don't have those serene moments at the workplace. We're not out there on the nice quiet, like that story I just read you about on the canoeing. It's not, or you just explain the kids are down to sleep, the house is clean, and you can just say, Calgon, take me away. A lot of times at work, you still got deadlines, you got hassles, you got a boss, you got employees, you got peers, and so it's always constantly going. Multiple deadlines and stuff in the mailbox. And so what the challenge is, therefore, is that if I can't get to these situations that bring me joy, how can I experience joy? If it's always a deadline, always something going on. I was discussing this here recently with someone just here recently. And even in my series that I previously taught on about hostility in the workplace, and someone was telling me how the message on this past Sunday really blessed them because I said that the environment is going to remain hostile, but how do you keep the hostility from getting inside of you? A lot of times we're trying to change the environment. A lot of times what we're trying to do is we're trying to duplicate those situations of joy. When I asked you, and each one of you gave me circumstances or situations that brought joy to you. And so we define joy as getting to these serene moments, getting to these circumstances, seeing something accomplished. And with me, my job, pastor, you know what? I won't see the completion of my job till I get to heaven.
Wow.
Because I'm going to always have bad marriages.
Wow.
I'm going to always have, you know what? Seriously. Because, see, there is no, wow, I got it done. I mean, I'll dance and shout when we get the next project done or get the next church built, and I enjoyed when we get this church built. But my point is, that wasn't the end of my job. That wasn't the end of my journey. That after we built the church 10 years ago, I still had to keep dealing with folk. Dealing with drama, dealing with saved and unsaved people. And so, this is what our work life is. But even in the most stressful situations, we can experience joy. Even in the most stressful situation, we can experience joy. A short conversation with a colleague can become an opportunity to listen to what God is doing in their life. Holy and joyful moments happen throughout the day when we share our hopes and our struggles over lunch or around the water cooler. In other words, we've got to not only build the joy, but look for opportunities for joy. What you are talking about sounds much more than just being happy at work. And see, many times the situations that we describe are things that make us happy. And if you remember, happy comes from the root word hap, which is where we get the word happen or happenstance. And so when you think about happy, always remember that happy only happens if things happen, okay, to be in place. Anthony, you're going to do my switching and stuff when people get lined up. Here's the camera right here. And therefore, what if the things don't happen to happen? So we got a challenge because the things that we want to happen may not happen. Leave the mic up there. We want, and so you got to be very careful not to confuse joy with happiness. Because it may not happen that day. Whatever brings me happiness may not happen. And a lot of people are searching for happiness, and that's why we are always aggravated or frustrated or on edge, because things aren't happening. Things aren't happening. This is what I need to be happy, and it's not happening. So it's very important that we are clear and understand the difference between joy and happiness. There's a fundamental difference between the two. Yes, you experience joy when you sense God's presence here and now. So let's first of all start rethinking joy. Rethinking joy. Let's rethink what joy really means. The hallmark of joy is living responsively to the Spirit no matter what's going on in the workplace. Let me say that again. The hallmark of joy is living responsively to the Spirit no matter what's going on in the workplace. Sitting through a sales pitch, dealing with an irate customer, stepping into a difficult boardroom, or dealing with a colleague who dislikes us. Those things won't bring you happiness. Another meeting? Really? I'm stressed out. I'm frustrated, Pastor. Difficulties and challenges, people that dislike you. Joy is more than happiness, though. Happiness is an emotion. Joy is a fruit. Happiness is an emotion. Feeling good. Having well-being. But you can have joy even in adverse times. Joy is God connection. God infused. Whole person exhilarated. Blissful well-being. A spiritual transcendence. Noted Bible teacher William Barclay says that joy is the distinguishing atmosphere of the Christian's life. It is to be full of joy. People who are exhilarated by having God as number one in their lives, being filled with joy. So let me get this real clear. Happiness is an emotion. Joy is something that comes from God. Happiness is an emotion. And so emotions are dictated by your circumstances, who's around you, how you feel. And sometimes we can't control our emotions. Sometimes things around us will make us angry. And God never told you not to be angry. He said, just don't sin. He says, be angry, but sin not. So there's a place to be angry. You just can't be angry too long. Because he said if you're angry too long, you give place for the devil to get a foothold, and your anger can become wrath, which is anger put into action. I could be angry at you, but I don't want to put that anger into action. Does that make sense? And it's very important that we do that. Let me go around the room. Some of you all are coming in, and so I asked this question earlier before I continue, and so I want to ask some of you here today. Tell me about joy in your life. What brings about joy for you? And just speak loud, or you can grab the mic. Somebody grab the mic and pass it around. Tell us about what brings joy, and it can be situations or a specific thing that happened in your life that made you feel joy. So let's start with you, Estee. Tell me about joy in your life. When or what or how do you experience joy?
When one of my prayers are answered.
One of your prayers are answered. Very good. Tanya, tell me about joy.
I experience joy in activities with like family members or family comes together, because I have family that live far away.
So when they all come together and you haven't seen them, that brings you joy.
Yeah.
Bree, tell me a little bit about joy.
I would say just when something happens that I want it to happen.
Okay.
So if something goes well, if I find some sort of success in some area.
Okay. Very good. So we heard from three more, and so now I'll go back to what we've been talking about. And again, what I heard, I think maybe other than Estee, what I heard really was happiness. Because what you just described is when things happen. Tanya said when her family that she hasn't seen come together, that brings her joy. It actually brings an emotion that makes her feel happy. Okay, and joy, by the way, yes, Wanda, look like you're about to say something.
Yes, Pastor, because I'm going back about joy, but the happiness being an emotion, and you use the scripture, be angry and sin not. And dealing with prideful or arrogant people, that be angry and sin not comes in my mind because I be angry. But when it comes to the sinning, I guess I have guilt, because it's just like, well, I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm just thinking it, and finding that balance of that guilt of thinking it because you're so mad. And it affects your attitude. Even though I'm not sinning, it still seems to affect my attitude and behavior with the people.
And in some respects then, would we consider that to be a sin? And I'm just going off book right now. Because if God wants me to bring a positive atmosphere, but right now I can't do it because I'm mad. If God wanted me to encourage a person, but I ain't trying to say nothing to you right now. Now, I didn't slap you, which is what I really felt. However, I also didn't encourage you either, which is what God wanted me to do. So, you know, like a lot of times, one of my biggest challenges are when I get mad, I'm just like you. I'll shut down. You know, I may not say nothing, but you'll definitely know I ain't pleased right now. I am not pleased. And so that then, in fact, will affect you, correct? When you know that somebody walking around won't say nothing, what's wrong with you, nothing? And that bothers you. So, and that's why I believe that we have a constant supply of grace and mercy. Because if any man says he's without sin, he is a liar. God says, but he is faithful and just to forgive us if we ask for it. And so this is why I believe that it is important. But let's go back to joy and pride. Pride stems from the energy we summed up to prop up ourselves as number one. Joy stems from the energy we express in worshiping God as number one. Pride strips us of joy. Joy strips us of pride. Pride strips us of joy. Joy strips us of pride. Joy is not only a personal experience, but can be the dominant atmosphere of a workplace culture. The kingdom of God is righteousness, peace, and joy. The story of God's good news starts and ends with joy. What this is saying here is, although we can have negative stuff going around us and negative things in the workplace and negative things in our homes, we have the capacity to bring joy, which can start impacting the surroundings around us. Let me say that again. If we can learn how to effectively implement joy in our lives, it can be infectious. It can be infectious. It can. If anger can be infectious, joy can too. You can change the atmosphere with your joy. You can. While speaking with his followers about a meeting in the love of God, Jesus said, I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Your joy may be fulfilled. Your joy may be mature. Far from bringing a person soul-deadening religion or impact to people, bringing joy to people can be something that is great. The highest scriptural endorsement of the spirituality of work is found in Jesus' parable of the talents. At the conclusion of the story, the master, check this out, rewarded 2 workers who invested their wealth and abilities faithfully by saying, enter into the joy of the Lord. Enter into the joy of the Lord. When we work wholeheartedly, work becomes a means for entering into God's presence and enjoying God's joy. Listen to that again. When we work, and we work diligently, and we're doing this thing, and we're not just working for ourselves, which is pride, but working for God, and we know that God is going to be pleased, one of the things we generate is joy. Because God was pleased with the way I worked today. God was pleased with how I handled the workers and the employees and the peers and the members today. God was pleased, and when God is pleased, he says, well done, thy good and faithful servant, enter into the joy of the Lord. When I do this without pride, but I'm taking my soul to work, and in the last series, I was telling you all why it was so important that the things that you need, that you get those from other places other than your job. Because, see, let me tell you something. It's hard to express joy if you need the work people to love you. If you need your environment to be peaceful, if you need the right circumstances, it's going to be very difficult for you to behave the way God would have you. And so you won't be diligent as a worker. What would God have me do in this circumstance? How would he have me behave during this situation? Do you know that there's a joy comes on you? Has anybody ever ministered to someone and or saw someone get saved and you really felt like you played a part in terms of planting seeds or watering? You ever had that experience? Isn't there a joy that comes over you when you see that happen? When you see somebody's life happen, there's a joy that comes over me when I see people's lives change. Somebody was telling me about how Sunday's messages just made them cry. Man, a joy came over me. A joy came over me. Now, that had nothing to do with whether or not I was having a good day or a bad day that day. Had nothing to do with whether or not, the dog threw up on me on my way to church. It had nothing to do with whether or not the gas ran out. I got a flat tire. All of that stuff could have happened. Are y'all with me? So my circumstances and environment could have been horrible. But I worked the work of him that sent me while it's day. I worked diligently, and as a result, even though I may have been having a bad day, somebody was blessed because of my work. I wasn't doing that for me. God was the reason why I was doing it. And when I got that testimony about what I did bless them, even though maybe I was having drama with my wife at home, it doesn't really matter. My work blessed them because I wasn't working for me. I was working for the Lord. And when I saw that, a joy came over me. So, joy. Let's talk about, so I told you to start rethinking joy. Stop thinking about happiness so much as joy, which is a spiritual thing. It has to do with one's connection with God, because joy can only come from God. People in life can make you happy, but they can also make you sad. Joy deals with your connection and relationship with God. and doing the work as unto God, for God, and then watching that work bless someone else, a joy comes over you. Most people don't believe that fun and work can coexist. A miserable workplace where employees are lazy and work primarily for money. Workers put their own interests ahead of what is best for the organization. No one wants to be responsible. The employees need to be constantly told what to do. Let me tell you something. Whether or not you work like that or have to lead people like that, that's not a great experience. It's not a happy experience. Therefore, you're not happy. Always got to tell them what to do. They're always complaining about this. Always frustrated with that. That's not a good thing. Are y'all with me? No one, it seems like people just won't take responsibility. Employees need to be constantly told what to do. The result, employees want higher pay and better benefits with fewer hours on the job. And they complain about the pay, and I'm like, you ain't earning the pay you're getting right now. You ain't working with me. You want more. I just gave you a bonus, and now you're complaining about something else. Oh, I'm preaching. So, transform a bureaucratic energy into a joyful workplace. A guy did this. He empowered people to use their talents and delegated decisions to the lowest level. He built dynamic and fluid teams, created a sense of community, and imparted the knowledge that what one is doing has significant purpose. So one of the things this particular guy did is he made sure that every employee had purpose, that I wasn't just here to get a paycheck, but there was purpose behind what I was doing. And in truth and matter, when you think about your walk with the Lord, and we know that all things work together for the good of them who love God, who are called according to his purpose. When we started at the beginning of this year, I talked about more than conquerors. It was tied to that chapter which talked about purpose. That all of this is dealing with purpose. And so, even in the most frustrating circumstances, if there's a purpose behind it, it can bring about joy. It can bring about joy. Work that we enjoy doing enables us to use our gifts and talents. We lose all sense of time when we are doing it. Few people are constantly ecstatic about what they do. The workplace spirituality does not guarantee that frustrating work will become 100% fun. Anyway, experiencing joy at work is more than merely having fun. So, even though sometimes some of us may find ourselves in a situation where you're doing a job that you always wanted to do. And so that can help you feel better about it because you love doing it and you'd work and the time goes fast. But every job ain't going to be like that. And so, but you still got to figure out how to get joy. You know, it's one thing that everything is going great, but even when it ain't going great, how do I get joy? You know, I sometimes I tell people, listen, when you need money, go get a job. Even if it's at Walmart or McDonald's, bagging groceries, flipping burgers. And some people will do that, but then they go into it frustrated. Go into it aggravated or disappointed. And so they don't go into it with joy. So it's important to have joy at work, but what if your work doesn't make you happy? What if your work isn't fulfilling? I hear that a lot. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not fulfilled at my job. I don't get a sense of fulfillment in what I'm doing. But let me be real clear. That ain't necessarily what your work is for. I know that's how we've been raised. Go to school, what you want to be, get your degree, get your job, and go do it. And you know what some of the most frustrating people is? They do all of that, and then they get to the job, and they can't stand it.
That's true.
You know why? Because you're trying to get your fulfillment from the job. No. Sometimes you'll be happy. Sometimes you'll be doing stuff you really love. And sometimes I have this discussion with somebody. And I'll have people say this, well, you're doing what you want to do. Well, you got your ministry. I don't even know how much hell I go through. I don't know how frustrated I get. How disappointed I am. But in their minds, they've already decided that, well, you fulfilled. You the pastor. You own your business. And I tell people, you don't even know what it means to own a business. You have employees. Let me tell you something. Y'all ain't working with me. Everybody who want to be in charge, let me talk to you after you've been in charge for about 6 months. Everybody, well, they promoted me and made me manager. I got 3 people reporting to me. That felt good when they first did it. Let me go talk to you 3 months later when they ain't showing up to work on time. I'm preaching. You got to tell them 5 times what to do. Now, when you get it, you felt good. But when you start doing it, and so don't ever, see, you got to learn. You can't let your job or your career be the thing that fulfills you. Or the thing that makes you happy, or the thing that brings contentment in your life. No, you go to work to work. Amen. And sometimes working is a mess. Sometimes working is hostile. Sometimes working is dealing with these jokers right here. And God says, go work. And you ain't going to be happy. And this is not just a spiritual, this is a worldwide thing. Y'all know that most people have more heart attacks on Monday than any other day of the week because they had the weekend off and they started thinking about them people at the job. They start thinking about the stress. They haven't even got to the job yet. Let me say this again. They start thinking about the stress and they have a heart attack. Absolutely. And that's the point. Everybody gives this world and their jobs and the people around them too much power. You're getting stressed out by what other folk are doing. Seriously? Y'all don't like me.
No, it's true.
And they going on about their life and you about to die. So, sometimes what you work and do may actually make you feel good. It may actually make you feel fulfilled. But more than likely, not forever. More than likely, it'll flee. It'll flee because we live in the cycle. We live in seasons. Things come, they go. You feel happy, you feel sad. Everybody love you one day, throwing palms at your feet. Next week they're saying, give us the bad guy. Crucify this one. Give us Barabbas. Crucify. I'm like, can you imagine if Jesus was waiting on folk to make him happy? He'd be in bad shape. Because he'd be like, oh, after all I done did for these jokers right here. I mean, I done fed 5,000. I done healed them. I done raised them up. You too? Didn't I raise your child from the dead? And you ain't lying talking about crucify him? Oh my God. You want to talk about losing, feeling bad. And so, even though sometimes we can find a job that brings happiness and so on and so forth, a lot of times you can't. So now you got to figure out, how do I cultivate the fruit of joy? Okay, this work is going to be what it's going to be. This job is going to be what it's going to be. I can't get rid of these folk. I can't change this job. I can't change you. I can't change my circumstances. I can't quit the job because I need to pay my bills. And maybe God don't even want me to quit because he's got me there for a reason. So how do I cultivate this joy that some of you described earlier? Joy begins when we know why and for whom we work. Let me say that again. Joy begins when you know why and whom you work for. That's going back to that thing called purpose again. Why are you doing this? I hope, and although all of you need money, please understand, you are a Christian. God has sent you into the workplace. If he sent you into the workplace, there's a deeper purpose behind. I'm just here to get a paycheck. There's a deeper purpose. There's a deeper reasoning. Now you are a Christian, even if you don't get it. Maybe it wasn't your dream job. Maybe it wasn't what you went to school for. Maybe it's not making you feel fulfilled. And again, I'm telling you, you need to get that fulfillment somewhere else, not from your job. Okay? You need to do that now, because you're going to always be miserable if you're looking for your job and your circumstances and situations to make you feel joy. Because sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. So it starts with simply saying why and for whom we work. Most of us work for love, whether we realize it or not. That is, we work to provide for the people we love, such as our spouses or children, our neighbors, our friends, perhaps even our nation. Love has an endless capacity to transform work into a sacrament of joy. Ultimately, there is joy in working for God, and for God receives our work. So let me go back to the love piece. I can't stand the job, but Bree, my daughter gonna eat. Let me go and do this work. You see what I just did there? You know, because I love my daughter so much, I gotta go do this work. You know, there's love can be the sacrament for your joy. Ultimately, there is joy in which is what I was focusing on, working for God. Yes, I'm working for my daughter. I'm working for my son. I'm working for my spouse. I'm working for my household because I love them. And I'll sacrifice for them. The work that Jesus had to do was to go on the cross and die. Now, I ain't gonna want no happiness in that. But there was joy in it. Because he knew all these folk here talking about crucifying me, I'm about to save them. All these people that are losing their mind, I'm about to bring them peace. They don't even know it. Their grandchildren going to make it to heaven because of what I'm doing right now. Great-grandkids going to learn about what happened here today. Generations down the road, 2,000 years later. And so, even though he was experiencing one of the most frustrating, agonizing periods of his existence, he still could have joy because of its purpose. And we know it was agonizing because he said, Lord, if it be thy will, take this cup away. We know it was agonizing because he was trying to get some backup and they kept falling asleep on him. You're like, Peter, brother, need some help now. Can y'all help me out? Can y'all pray with me for just 1 hour? And they're aggravating, and they ain't for them. And they're like, you're feeling all alone and all of this. God, why have you forsaken me? And he had joy because of the purpose in which he was doing it. The purpose. Feeding, clothing, visiting, and welcoming was work that you did, Jesus says in Matthew 25 and 40. Feeding, clothing, visiting, welcoming, and giving drink to the thirsty are ways of loving our neighbors and supplying their needs. Let me tell you something. You work, you come to church, you bring your tithes and offering. We take that tithes and offering and we bless somebody in the community who didn't have anything to eat, or we put that broadcast on the TV and bless somebody's spirit which was poor and they didn't know about Christ, or somebody comes to this church and you know for a fact that these lights are on and the thing is still going on, and because of what you've done, okay, you know, somebody got saved last Sunday. And y'all helped make that happen. It wasn't just Pastor Will preaching. Let me be real clear. Pastor Will wouldn't have been up there preaching if y'all hadn't to give Pastor Will a salary. Pastor Will would have been on the job working. Y'all ain't working with me. But because you worked on that job, which maybe it was aggravating, got your tithes and brought it to the church used it in a diligent manner to bless this community, you played a part in that. And they may never even know until they get to heaven. It may never even be revealed, the work that you put in. And so that in and of itself, when you bring that knowledge to your mind It can give you joy, even in stressful situations. The world is languishing for a lack of this kind of joy. Not the happiness. You go back and forth on that. But the consistent and persistent idea of joy. So, and we kind of already did this, but this exercise says, identify specific moments of joy you've encountered over the past week. And I kind of asked you all that at the beginning of this session. But think about it. In what ways did you experience joy working with your colleagues, staff, or customers? In what ways did you experience joy while doing the work itself? What are some things you are grateful for in your organization, your process, or your systems? Health benefits, robust ethics, reward system. How will you allow yourself to be purposefully exhilarated by joy, even when your daily work may be lackluster or just difficult? I'm gonna go back through. I'm gonna go back through these and ask you all these questions here. Practice the discipline of thanksgiving by recalling and thanking God for 5 or 10 specific moments that gave you joy each day. So, in our last few minutes here, let's bring you all in. I got about 10 minutes. So we've talked about this. So let me go to the last one. What are some things you're grateful for concerning your job, concerning your workplace? I want you to think about that, and I want you all to just start telling me, what are some things that you're grateful for? I know what you're aggravated about. We don't need to hear those today. I know what frustrates you. But what are some things that you're grateful for? Yes, Yvette.
Actually, this isn't going to answer this particular question.
Okay.
As you were talking, I was thinking about how when I get really, really stressed out and frustrated, I'll start saying, God, I thank you for this job. These people are getting on my nerves. But I just thank you for the opportunity to be able to do it. And then I find myself continuously thanking him for other things. And then by the time I finish, I'm like, okay, girl, get back to work. It ain't even that serious.
Wow.
And that just helps to, one, put a lot of things in perspective. And then two, it just gives me excitement and energy. And then brings in that joy.
Very good. That was, I remember being very frustrated with Victorious Praise overall. Just people, drama, church wasn't growing like I wanted it to grow, the money wasn't right. I was just very frustrated. Now, for most of us, what we want to do is we want the thing that's making us frustrated to change. We want the people to change. We want to serve. If I'm not making enough money, to us the answer is, give me more money. Y'all ain't working with me. So we tend to focus on the thing that's driving the frustration. But what God had me to do, which is similar to what Yvette did, one day he had me to just walk out here. Nobody was in the building, just me. And I just began to look up, look at the ceilings, look at the sound system, and staging, and chairs, and I'm like, you're complaining about what, really? I mean, do you know that there are people that have been pastoring for 30 years and they're still pastoring in a hole in the wall, or they're pastoring in the living room? People would love to just have the number of people you have in teen church for their church.
Sure.
The number of folk that show up to your leadership class. If folk had that show up on Sunday morning, they would think they was cooking with grease. Y'all working with me? And God just had me to go into this Thanksgiving. And do you know that the Bible says, be careful for nothing, which means don't worry. But with prayer and thanksgiving, and thanksgiving, make your request be made known unto God. He didn't tell you not to ask. He just said, but make sure you thank. Make sure you thank God for what you do have. Because I'm going to tell you right now, one of the things that really frustrate me with people is when they're not even thankful for what I did do.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, fine. I ain't paid you all the money in the world. But you always got your paycheck on time, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, can you be thankful for that? Can you be thankful for, because see, I know some churches, I had one of my members, they work for a church. On payday, they told them, we only got 50% of your paycheck. And then we'll try to get the rest of it to you. So then they give them part of it in 2 weeks. And then they go for the next paycheck. The girl told me, she said, Pastor, first it started at 75%, then it started at 50%. Then 1 week we got no pay. And then they would give us part of it, a little bit here, a little bit there. And so now they owe her so much that she's afraid to quit because she ain't going to get her money. And I'm like, now, is it George Praise? Our employees have, how long we been employing, baby? For at least, this is 2014. We started daycare in 03. So we've always got some paychecks. Now sometimes I had to go pull some money out of my house to pay it.
Yes.
I had to go get a mortgage payment. Thank you, the person that handles the money. I had to go get a check off of my house and give it to Yvette to say deposit this to cover their checks, and y'all get it back to me when you can. But they always got a check. And so when folks start complaining about stuff, that thing can like drive something up your neck. I'm like, I know I ain't paying you the best, but I always pay you. So now think about this. I am created in the image of God. Let me say that again. We are created in the image of God. So if it drives me crazy when people aren't at least thankful for the little bit that I do, how do you think God feel when all you do is complain about how bad things are? I mean, so what he says is, I don't care about you asking. In other words, here's the best way. I'm not saying I'm going to give you a raise. But here's the best way to get one. Use the same formula that God said with prayer and thanksgiving. So before you ask for the raise, Pastor, I'm so grateful for this job. I'm so glad that, okay, I got 2 employees sitting in here. They're not listening to me. I'm working hard, and I'm just so thankful. I got more than that. I got 4 or 5 employees in here. I'm so grateful. I got 5 employees, 6 employees, 7 employees. Praise God. I should have kept this on down low while they was in. But you start with thanksgiving. That's what God said. God said, with prayer and thanksgiving, then make your request known. Okay, make your request known. So thank you for that. Somebody else has something?
Oh, I said one
Go
of the
ahead.
prayers that I say every day, and I teach my children, is we always say, thank you for, Lord, thank you for the stuff that we have, and thank you for the stuff that we don't have. So, I mean, it could be anything. My daughter was like, what do you mean that we don't have? I said, some people are sick. They're ill. Some people are this. I went through a whole list of stuff. And
Wow.
she's like, oh yeah, well thank you, Lord, that I don't have that. I'm like, yeah, you do. You need to be thankful for everything, what he gives you, what he doesn't allow to happen to you, or doesn't give you.
That's awesome. Because I may not have a great boss, but thank God I don't have that kind of boss. You see what I just said there? So I'm complaining that I don't have the perfect boss, but you could have a boss on loan from hell. I mean, at least I got a boss that at least profess Christianity, even if I don't think they living it all the way. They at least heard about it. Y'all ain't working with me. If you go to church and know Jesus, there ain't but so much you can do.
That's right.
You know, I may not act all Christian, but I ain't gonna cuss you out now. If I got any bosses at Victoria's Place cussing folk out, they got to go. So, but there are people who go to work and get cursed clean out. It's a very good point. Very good point. You know, I know it's bad, but it could be worse. You could have to work in a situation where you've been sexually harassed and you're the only breadwinner. And somebody told me that. Somebody, one of the members, that they had to actually start leaving before the person could get to them, and start having to do stuff, not going into this side of the office, because the person kept harassing them sexually. And they couldn't afford to quit the job.
Yes, because you think of stuff like
I mean, y'all don't think about stuff like that. A lot of times we don't, when it thinks about being thankful and grateful. So, anyone else, what are some things you're grateful for with your current job, with your current workplace? Anybody else? I got a few more minutes. What are some things that you are grateful for?
seeing positive results. It lets you know you're helping and that your time is being an asset.
All right. Very good. Anybody else? What are some things that you can be grateful for? I want you to think about that. You know, those that work for me, it'd be a good idea now to say something.
Nobody know that.
No, it'd be a good idea with your boss standing up here to say a little something, something. I can't stand that. You know, now is not the time to, you know, keeping it real. If keeping it real goes all wrong. Sister Yvette.
Actually, I'm thankful for the flexibility that I have. I've had, over the past couple of years, a lot of difficult situations. And when I've come to you and said, especially when I was driving back and forth from Fayetteville, you know, sir, the gas is high, you know, can I work from home a couple of days and come in a couple of days? And that was a tremendous blessing to me, because I was probably spending almost one paycheck just on gas alone because of the distance. So yeah, I'm grateful for the flexibility.
Awesome. Anybody else? Yes.
I guess I was going to say the same thing, as far as flexibility and being able to still have a home life and vacation and not being held up and had something to do or to take off work. I can say that I drop my son off every morning, and so I ask for time to be here and he's able to allow me to be here so I can drop my son off at school every morning. So the flexibility is great. This luncheon is very good.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a lot of positive things working.
Okay. And the idea is, when it gets bad, start thinking about things you can be thankful for. Because the bad's gonna be bad. The bad may not change. That don't mean that there aren't things to be thankful for. The enemy can have you focus on what's bad, and so God says, when you ask me about the bad, be thankful first. Be thankful. And so that's what can bring you joy. That's what can bring you joy, because the circumstances might change. But the joy will come when you start being thankful, and you start realizing there's purpose, and I'm doing this for my child, and there are people that are going to be blessed by this. And I do believe that sincerely. So anybody else, I thank God for my wife coming in, and you know, I don't say it enough, but I am thankful for her. Because if I would have been married to some of the people I've counseled, okay, let me say that again. I'm going to say, if I would have been married to some of the women that I've had to counsel for marriage, I don't know if Victoria's Praise would be here today. So I'm very grateful for that. And that's what I do. I just, the way I overcome my stresses and depression and frustration is I just take a moment and just start thinking. And that's one of the keys of joy. Purpose, love, and thanksgiving. Remember those. There's purpose in my job. There's purpose for me being here. I am thankful for this, and that, and so on and so forth. And that love. Love is what's motivating me to do this. Love is what motivated me to do this. All right, those that are watching, thank you for watching. If you want to support us, we'd love for you to go online and make a donation. And of course, those of you here, we'd like to receive something from you as well. I always try to give even though I'm working. Everybody, God first. Thank you all for your time.
This one is a mess in herself right here. I want you to lay her on the altar, Pastor. Thank you. It's too much. I hate that. Oh, I'm gonna put you in praise.
Yeah.